Howdy YouTube viewers and gear gadget fans everywhere. Thanks for tuning in to the WatchBox review today. And in today's review, I'm not going to review a product specifically, but I'm going to do a Lume review. So this is the first ever on the WatchBox review, Luminescent review. And so as you can see, I'm charging up all the glow-in-the-dark Lumes with my flashlight. And this isn't my brightest flashlight, by the way, but it's a 90 lumen flashlight, which I think is a good representation of flashlights you can find like in hardware stores and things like that. So for what it's worth, the contestants today are a newly acquired Seiko Frankenmonster, a Citizen Orca here, which you've seen in my other video, Android Transocean 52, which I've also reviewed, and this is my brightest glowing Invicta. This is an Invicta Pro Diver model number F0066, which you saw in my other review. And this here is a newly acquired Invicta Corduba Interceptor. Okay, so I'm going to just run through the Lumes a little bit left and right, trying to get each watch equally here. I don't want to favor any one. Okay, if anything, if anything, I'm going to favor my dimmest glowing watches. So we'll give the Invicta the unfair advantage of having the last Lume here. Okay, or the last charge here. Okay. Okay, there we go. Good enough. Kill the lights. Okay, so there's the Lumes off a fresh charge with my flashlight, an LED flashlight. So right away you can see on the far right the Invicta Corduba Interceptor just dimming and fading fast. Although my camera has a hard time reading such low levels of light, in real life here, in person, I can actually see it pretty legibly. But it clearly is not as bright as my other watches that you see here. So the the Citizen Orca, you can see one of my minor Lume and actually the Android as well. One of my minor Lume peeves is when watchmakers can't match the luminescent intensity from the dial to the hands. I don't know why they can't, but it happens. It happens a lot, actually, pretty frequently. So you can see right away the Invicta Pro Diver, second from the right, and the Seiko Frankenmonster on the far left are pretty uniform from dial to hands. Okay, so the luminescent properties used, everybody's familiar with the Invicta Tritnite luminescent paint. As you can see, it's fading pretty quickly. Android uses Super Luminova. So at this point, the dial is fading really rapidly here on this Android, and you can just barely make out the hands and maybe barely a little bit of the dial at this point. Okay, and Citizen, I think they use their own proprietary luminescent paint, but as you can see there in the video, the hands are noticeably brighter than the dial. And Seiko Lume, to me, is just the perfect Lume for the price. And you can see that here in this video. I mean, you can spend the Seiko Lume, at least on the Frankenmonster, the Seiko Lume goes toe-to-toe with watches costing multi-thousands of dollars. Dive tools of various types of watches costing multi-thousands of dollars. You can spend a lot more money on a watch and get equal or worse luminescent properties than if you buy a Seiko. So if you're a Lume guy and you really want your watches to stand out at night and you're on a tight budget, definitely give Seiko a heavy consideration. The Monster, the Baby Monster, you're seeing the Frankenmonster here. My understanding is the Frankenmonster, because the Lume patches are so big and so thickly applied, the Frankenmonster is the brightest glowing of all the quote-unquote Monster series. So I'll probably pick up a Baby Monster at some point as well, because that's such a phenomenal value, I think. So how are we doing? I'm actually looking at the watches here in person. How are we looking on film? On film, we're starting to fade. Staying power is pretty almost non-existent. You guys, I think, can barely make out the Invicta Pro Diver there, second from the right. The Invicta Corduba basically doesn't even exist anymore, so I'm just going to kind of zoom out that. We're going to move in closer a little bit to some of the brighter steel watches. And I think you guys can just barely make out that Pro Diver on the right now. So now again, my camera just doesn't have the sensitivity to pick up the low levels of light, because in person here I can actually very clearly, very distinctly see the luminescent accents on that Pro Diver, as well as the Invicta Corduba on the far right. So the point about the Android I want to make, can you even see it anymore? The point over here the point I want to make about the Android is it uses superluminova, glow-in-the-dark luminescent paint. Now, superluminova is used on watches costing thousands of dollars, but the application on that Android dial is so thin, it's just not thick enough to really hold a charge and to really shine through like the Seiko or even the hands on that Citizen Orca. Okay, so you can buy a watch that advertises superluminova, glow-in-the-dark paint, blah blah blah, and still come away with a lume that's basically very weak. Okay, so for whatever reason, the hands are shining very brightly on that Android as well, and that's probably a good example. You can see a good example here. Let's zoom in. You can see a good example here just within the Android. The hands are so much brighter than what's left on the dial. I mean, my camera can't even pick up the dial lume at all. So it all depends on application, or a big chunk of it depends on application. So, and we're going to go over here. Can you guys even see that? You guys can't even see the Invictas anymore. They're not even in picture anymore. Okay. So I'm not sure how long I'm going to run this. I'm just going to let it run and let it go. Just so you guys can see the real staying power of the Citizen Lume. So I like, and for what it's worth, I like all these watches. I don't buy a watch I don't like. Basically, I mean, yeah, the Lume is kind of weak on the Invictas, but I think they offer other design features as well to kind of offset that. So, and plus they're not that expensive either. So. Okay, so I don't know, I guess I'll finish up here. I hope I've shown you guys something new here that you maybe haven't seen before on another video. So here's the Seiko Frankenmonster. There is the Citizen Orca. There's the Android Transocean 52, and you're not going to see it very well, but there's the Invicta Pro Diver, and at the very end, at the far right, is my newly acquired Invicta Corduba Interceptor, which I'll do a detailed review on in the near future. And same goes for my Seiko, actually. I'll be reviewing the Seiko Frankenmonster in a little bit as well. So, okay, so just wanted to do this. This is probably the first of maybe a couple Lume reviews that I will be doing with my watches. I like Lume. I buy a watch so I can read it and use it to tell time. I don't want my watch to basically disappear at night. Although the Invictas kind of do disappear, but in reality, in person here, I can actually see a faint glow on them. But still, the Seiko Lume is just phenomenal. I mean, if you're a Lume fanatic and you want your watch to be visible at all times, definitely invest in a Seiko. I think you're getting a lot of quality and luminescent properties for just not a whole lot of money. So, okay, so thanks a lot, guys, for tuning into the WatchBox review, the first ever Lume review on the WatchBox review. The star of the show being the Seiko Frankenmonster Lume. Okay, so thanks a lot, guys, and I will catch you later.